my fellow citizens, events in Iraq have now reached the final days of decision. For more than a decade, the United States and other nations have pursued patient and honourable efforts to disarm the Iraq regime without war. The regime pledged to reveal and destroy all its weapons of mass destruction as a condition for ending the Persian Gulf War in 1991. Since then, the world has engaged in 12 years of diplomacy. We have passed more than a dozen resolutions in the United Nations Security Council. We have sent hundreds of weapons inspectors to oversee the disarmament of Iraq. Our good faith has not been returned. The Iraq regime has used diplomacy as a ploy to gain time and advantage. It has uniformly defied Security Council resolutions demanding full disarmament. Over the years, UN weapons inspections have been threatened by Iraq officials, electronically bugged and systematically received. Peaceful efforts to disarm the Iraq regime have failed again and again, because we are not dealing with peaceful men. Intelligence gathered by this and other governments leaves no doubt that the Iraq regime continues to possess and conceal some of the most lethal weapons ever devised. This regime has already used weapons of mass destruction against Iraq's neighbours and against Iraq's people. The regime has a history of reckless aggression in the Middle East. It has a deep hatred of America and our friends, and it has aided, trained and harboured terrorists, including operators of Al-Qaeda. The danger is clear. Using chemical, biological or one-day nuclear weapons obtained with the help of Iraq, terrorists could fulfill their stated ambitions and kill thousands or hundreds of thousands of innocent people in our country or any other. The United States and other nations did nothing to disturb or invite this threat, but we will do everything to defeat it. Instead of drifting along toward tragedy, we will set a course towards safety before the day of horror can come. Before it is too late to act, this danger will be removed. The United States of America has a sovereign authority to use force in assuring its own national security. The duty falls with me as Commander-in-Chief by the oath I have sworn, by the oath I will keep. Recognizing the threat to our country, and the United States Congress voted overwhelmingly last year to support the use of force in Iraq. America tried to work with the United Nations to address this threat because we wanted to resolve the issue peaceably. We believe in the mission of the United Nations. One reason the UN was founded after the Second World War was to confront aggressive dictators, actively and early, before they attack the innocent and destroy peace. In the case of Iraq, the Security Council did act. In the early 1990s, under Resolutions 678 and 687, both still in effect, the United States and our allies are authorized to use force in ridding Iraq of weapons of mass destruction. This is not a question of authority. It is a question of will. Last September, I went to the UN General Assembly and urged the nations of the world to unite and bring an end to this danger. On November 8th, the Security Council unanimously passed Resolution 1441, finding Iraq in material breach of its obligations and vowing serious consequences if Iraq did not fully or immediately disarm. Today, no nation can possibly claim that Iraq has disarmed, and it will not disarm so long as Saddam Hussein holds power. For the last 4.5 months, the United States and our allies have worked with the Security Council to ensure the Council's long-standing demands. Yet some permanent members of the Security Council have publicly announced that they will veto any resolution that compels the disarmament of Iraq. These governments share our assessment of the danger, but not our resolve to meet it. Many nations, however, do have the resolve and fortitude to act against this threat to peace, and a broad coalition is now gathering to enforce the just demands of the world. The United Nations Security Council has not lived up to its responsibilities, so we will rise to ours. In recent days, some governments in the Middle East have long been doing their part. They have delivered public and private messages urging the dictator to leave Iraq so that disarmament can proceed peaceably. He has thus far refused. All the decades of deceit and cruelty have now reached an end. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict commenced at a time of our choosing. For their own safety, all foreign nationals, including journalists and inspectors, should leave Iraq immediately. Many Iraqis hear me tonight in a translated radio broadcast, and I have a message for them. If we must begin a military campaign, it will be directed against the lawless men who rule your country, and not against you. As our coalition takes away their power, we will deliver the food and medicine you need. We will tear down the apparatus of terror, and we will help you build a new Iraq that is prosperous and free. In a free Iraq, there will be no more wars and aggression against your neighbours. No more poison factories, no more execution of dissidents, no more torture chambers or rape rooms. The tyrant will soon be gone. The day of your liberation is near. It is too late for Saddam Hussein to remain in power. It is not too late for the Iraq military to act with honour and protect your country by permitting the peaceful entry of coalition forces to eliminate weapons of mass destruction. Our forces will give Iraq military units clear instructions on actions they can take to avoid being attacked and destroyed. I urge every member of the Iraq military intelligence services, before comes, do not fight for a dying regime that is not worth your life. And all the Iraq military and civilian personnel should listen carefully to this warning. In any conflict, your fate will depend on your action. Do not destroy oil wells, a source of wealth that belongs to the Iraq people. Do not obey any command to use weapons of mass destruction against anyone, including the Iraq people. War crimes will be prosecuted. War criminals will be punished. And it will be no defense to say, I was just following orders. Should Saddam Hussein choose confrontation, the American people can know that every measure has been taken to avoid war, and every measure will be taken to win it. Americans understand the cost of conflict because we have paid them in the past. War has no certainty except for certainty of sacrifice. Yet the only way to reduce the harm and duration of war is to apply the full force and might of our military, and we are prepared to do so. If Saddam Hussein attempts to cling to power, he will remain a deadly foe until the end. In desperation, he and terrorist groups might try to conduct terrorist operations against the American people and our friends. These attacks are not inevitable. They are, however, possible. And this very fact underscores the reason we cannot live under the threat of blackmail. The terrorist threat to America and the world will be diminished the moment that Saddam Hussein is disarmed. Our government is on heightened watch against these dangers, just as we are preparing to ensure victory in Iraq. We are taking further actions to protect our homeland. In recent days, the American authorities have expelled from the country certain individuals with ties to Iraq intelligence services. Among other measures have been directed additionally security at our airports and increased Coast Guard patrols for major seaports. The Department of Homeland Security is working closely with the nation's governors to increase armed security at critical facilities across America. Should enemies strike our country, they would be attempting to shift our attention, panic, and weaken our morale with fear. In this, they would fail. No act of theirs can alter the course or take the result of this country. We are a peaceful people, yet we're not a fragile people, and we will not be intimidated by thugs and killers. If our enemies dare to strike us, they and all who have aided them will face fearful consequences. We are now acting because the risks of inaction will be far greater. In 1 year or 5 years, the power of Iraq to inflict harm on all free nations would be multiplied many times over. With these capabilities, Saddam Hussein and his terrorist allies could choose the moment of deadly conflict when they are strongest. We choose to meet that threat now when it arises, before it can appear suddenly in the skies and cities. The cause of peace requires all free nations to recognize new and undeniable realities. In the 20th century, some chose to appease murderous dictators whose threats were allowed to grow into genocide and global war. In this century, medieval men plot chemical, biological, and nuclear terror. A policy of appeasement could bring destruction of a kind never seen before on this earth. Terrorists and terrorist states do not reveal these threats with fair notice, in formal declarations, and responding to such enemies only after they have struck first is not self-defense, it is suicide. Security of the world requires disarming Saddam Hussein now. As we enforce the just demands of the world, we will honour the deepest commitments of our country. And like Saddam Hussein, we believe the Iraq people are deserving and capable of human living. And when the dictator has departed, they can set an example to all the Middle East of a vital, peaceful, and self-governing nation. The United States, with other countries, will work to advance the leading peace in that region. Our goal will not be to achieve overnight, but it can come over time. The power and appeal of human living is felt in every life, in every hand. And the greatest power of freedom is to overcome hatred and violence, and turn the creative gifts of men and women to the pursuit of peace. That is our future we choose. Free nations have a duty to defend our people by uniting against the violent. As united as we have done before, American and allies accept that responsibility. Good night, and may God continue to bless America. Terrorism is not limited to acts of violence, but can include any persons, groups, lone persons or peoples acting on behalf or in connection with organizations or governments committed to political, religious, or any other similar ideological purposes, aimed at influencing any government, public or section of the public through fear. The FBI definition for terrorism consists of the unlawful use of force against persons or property to intimidate or coerce the government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof in the furtherance of political or social objectives. Three elements contained within this definition include: 1. Terrorist activities are illegal and involve the use of force. 2. The actions are intended to intimidate or coerce. 3. The actions are committed in support of political or social objectives. Al-Qaeda is a terrorist organization that has conducted many violent crimes, including threats and acts as well as attempts at terrorist activities worldwide. Major attacks Al-Qaeda has been responsible for include targeting American interests in regions around the globe, as well as Jewish-related interests of buildings and Muslim governments they deemed as corrupt, i.e. the Saudi Kingdom especially, the attacks are listed. 1. 1995 car bomb outside the Saudi National Guard building, Riyadh, 7 fatalities. 2. August 1998, bombing of US embassies in Nairobi, Kenya and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, 224 killed. 3. October 2000, USS Coral Navy destroyer bombing by a small boat packed with explosives, killing 7 US soldiers. 4. April 2002 fuel tanker explosion outside a synagogue in Tunisia. 5. September 11, 2002 hijacking attacks in the World Trade Center in Pentagon. October 2002 an attack on a French tanker off the coast of Yemen with several spring bombings in Pakistan. In November 2002 a failed attempt to shoot down an Israeli jetliner by shoulder-fired missiles in a car bomb attack in Mombasa, Kenya. 8 May 2003, 3 residential compound car bomb attacks in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Suspected Al-Qaeda participation attacks include the following: 1. 1993 World Trade Center bombing. 2. October 2002 nightclub attack in Bali bombings in Indonesia. 3. May 2003 suicide attacks on Western interests in Casablanca, Morocco. Case study: terrorist link. Al-Qaeda and a non-Pacific flight. A militant cleric and his 2 sons were convicted of masterminding the 1993 planned and failed attack on 12 American Pan-Pacific flights. Sheikh Umar Abdel Rahman led the Egyptian Al-Qaeda affiliated group while his sons were senior Al-Qaeda officials. He was also nephew to a former senior Al-Qaeda terrorist, Khalid Sadiq Mohammed, who is now in US custody. International responses to the crimes include international regulatory bodies with reference to 3 case studies on the implementation of international communal mechanisms on combating terrorism. UN stance on terrorism. The Security Council reaffirms that terrorism in all forms and manifestations constitutes one of the most serious threats to peace and security, and that any acts of terrorism are criminal and unjustifiable, regardless of their motivation, especially when they indiscriminately target or injure civilians. The UN has passed the following resolution in 2003, number 1456, as a declaration adopted on the issue of combating terrorism by Security Council. Security Council therefore calls for all steps taken by member states. States must ensure that any efforts to combat terrorism comply with all their obligations under international law and should adopt such measures as in accordance with international human rights, refugees, and humanitarian law. All states must take urgent action to prevent and supply all active and passive support to terrorism, and in particular comply with all relevant resolutions of the Security Council in Part 1373-2001, 1390-2002, 1455-2003. Case study: terrorist financing. Terrorists who lack a state sponsor find their own way of raising funds. These can include ransoms from kidnappings or the proceeds of bank robberies, drug dealing, and various other forms of organised crime. Many Islamic terrorist groups rely on donations from wealthy religious Muslims as well as from mosque collections and various other charities. An example being the World Trade Center bombing of 1993 being partly financed by money from Al-Kahif refugee center in Brooklyn, New York. Leading efforts to combat global terrorist international financing. 2 years after the September 11 attacks, the United States Financial Action Task Force continues global efforts in detecting, preventing, and intercepting funds to terrorists. Terrorism, and therefore its financing, constitutes serious threats to national, regional, and international stability, as well as economic stability and growth. Countering these threats requires a swift and coordinated approach, and FATF has devised plans in order to assist the implementation of effective measures in combating terrorism through devising robust mechanisms to freeze and confiscate assets of terrorists. Due to transnational nature of terrorist activity, the member nations solely declare the following objectives of the US-Asian Joint Declaration on Combating Terrorism, Washington, D.C., August 1st, 2002. Scope of cooperation, stressing to commit implementing the principles laid out in this declaration as according to respective domestic laws and their specific circumstances as follows. Continue improving information sharing regarding more effective counter-terrorism policies and legal, regulatory and administrative procedures. Enhance relations among law enforcement agencies to create practical counter-terrorism regimes or response systems. Strengthen capacity building efforts through training and educating among officials, analysts and field operatives through seminars, consultations, conferences and appropriate joint operations. This declaration urged all its participants to promote and implement all provisions in good faith, while new developments, including the joint participation of the US with Asian bodies through all aspects. Change effective method of dealing with the issue include the Patriot Act, implemented after September 11 tragedy, was taken by the US government. This allowed law enforcement and federal agents to use tools previously used under other areas of law enforcement. This included extra investments of power through special permits and more information sharing for the FBI and CIA. The FATF has also expanded its areas of operations, including targeting money laundering crimes committed on behalf of terrorist organizations. The Asian Summit has also been further increasing its anti-terrorist operations, with further US support in areas of finances and information. Military intervention has also been taken by the US government when they demanded the Taliban hand over al-Qaeda officials. When they refused, the US demanded they responded by launching a campaign to get rid of the Taliban regime and the terrorist-affiliated links, including al-Qaeda and the various training facilities, related to developing the terror-related objectives. Following the increased awareness of terrorism pending 9/11, the world community has undergone drastic steps in an attempt to further stop tragedies of this nature. This has seen an increase in global awareness of the problem, as well as increased attempts to build community response systems, including increasing cooperation in relevant bodies such as UN, US, Asian summits, and FATF mechanisms and various acts such as Patriot Act.